Good afternoon, class. I am Marian Claire O. Victoriano.
And I am Chirilyn Itsanggutan.
We are here in front of you to discuss about the Chapter 7, Learners in Others Marginalized Groups. In this section, you will understand what marginalization means, specifically in the area of education. You will learn about the different groups that are marginalized in society and education. You will explore a process that could be used to identify issues of marginalization in school or class. There might be a situation that you are not aware of that have marginalization issues, and it is important for you and the adults in the school community to be aware of this so that appropriate response can be given. Marginalization education. Aika, an 8 years old girl, belongs to an indigenous people in Luzon, Philippines. Her ancestors were driven out of their land and forced to live in the mountain and forested area. They lost their lands to people who talk about progress and development. This indigenous group lived by planting roots, crops, hunting, and trading their produce with the people in their barrios. They have their own language, culture, beliefs. Aika walks 2 hours to get Varyu school together with 4 other children. When they get to school, the children from the barrio make fun of the how they look and speak. So, Aika is adisar siya makaabot silahang sa barrio sa school. So, distance kayo ang school sa ilaha. It's because na layo sila sa ilahang kuan kay ang ilahang panginabuhi is kana lang magkuan sa kanang planting roots, crops, hunting, and so on. So, naapot sila kanya-kanya nga natay kanya-kanya yung mga beliefs, culture, and also the language. So, adisar siya makaabot sa school si Aika is magbaktas siya og for almost 2 hours para makabot sila silahang gieskwelahan og napod sila kanang ang pagistorya pod nila is lahi pod nato ang pagkasabot. They have difficulty understanding the lesson and are unable to do homework because their parents are uneducated and those are unable to teach them. They lack school supplies because there is not enough to buy them. They go through their way of life, their culture, and belief system. And the end of the school year, Aika and her friends have low grades. So, nag-school tuod si Aika but dili siya matabangan sa iyahang kanang parents kay because of kanang dili makasabot ang iyahang parents tungod kay kanang wala naka school iyahang parents o kanang si Aika pod og iyahang friends nga uban is nakadawat sila og low grades kay it's because if naipapalit sila kuan sa school is dili sila makapalit kay tungod sa ilahang kawadon og dili dayon niya kuan sa ihang parents kay tungod sa wala sila kwarta nga mga kuan. Wala sila kwarta nga ikahatag para ipalit silahang mga gamit.
Robert Fark and Everett B. Stonquist analysis of the marginal man focuses on an individual who is born and raised in one culture and is immersed in a different prevailing culture. These transitions situate the individual in an enduring interactions and connection with a different culture, religion, language, race, and political beliefs brought about by schooling, intercultural marriage, immigration, or other reasons. So, si Robert Fark and Everett B. Stonquist, siya ang nagpokus sa individual na nabuhi o siya ang nagpataas sa culture. Like culture, like religion, language, race, and political belief brought about by schooling, cultural marriage, and immigration or other reasons.
The
The child
child
experiences
experiences some
some kind
kind of
of marginalization
marginalization that
that
is
is
recognized
recognized
by
by
almost
almost everybody,
everybody, including
including himself
himself or
or herself.
herself.
The
The
child
child
feels
feels that
that
he
he
or
or
she
she
is
is
experiencing
experiencing
marginalization,
marginalization,
whereas
whereas
most
most
of
of
the
the
others
others
do
do
not
not
recognize
recognize this.
this. When
When
a
a child
child is
is
found
found
in
in
what
what appears
appears
to
to be
be marginalized
marginalized situation
situations
but
but
does
does
not
not
feel
feel
it
it
or
or
does
does
not
not
view
view
it
it
as
marginalization.
marginalization. When
When
a
a
child
child
is
is
experiencing
experiencing
marginalization
marginalization
does
is
not
not
admit it.
admitted. 2012 suggests that this perspective on the students can provide a way of examining process, system, and occurrences in school and may access in the awareness and of an response to marginalization. It is important for adults in education to be conscious of this issue and put a stop to it. So, according to MISIO 2012, as a student, so importante jud nato ang education bisan unsa pa atong kinabuhi pero padayon ra paghihapon ta para sa atong kaugmaon dili ta mo give up o unsa pa na nga maabot sa atong kinabuhi nga mga problema. So ipadayon nga nato tungod kay ang education ay siya ang naghatag sa ato og kaning ah kaayuhan para kuan pud nato sa uban nga unsa jud ang kamaayo ang education.
Marginalization and Inclusion, or MISIU at 2012, manifesting how you people's voice can intensify system clearly and experiences in congruence with inclusive education. Voice is clearly identified as one of the students' right means having a say as well as referring to language and emotional components as well as nonverbal means that are used to express opinions. Thompson at 2008 as cited in Museo 2012. Simply put, it is listening and paying attention to what the young people and say do not say.
So,
Opening doors on enabling voice to emerge. Looking closely, bringing concerns to the surface, making sense of the evidence, sharing data with the learners, dealing with marginalization, encouraging inclusive thinking and practice.
step 1 of opening doors, enabling voices to be heard. Situating the students in the center of the process, various methods are used to allow them to express how various concerns and experience lead to the marginalization of us students in school. Different methods suggest to be used appropriate to the age of the learners. Step 2. Looking closely, bringing concern to the surface. In this stage of the process, data gathered from step 1 is meticulously examined to identify students who may be experiencing some kind of marginalization or any concerns that might be lead marginalization. And step 3, making sense of the evidence, sharing data with learners. It is during this time that there is an explicit focus on the concerns about marginalization that were gathered that previous step. Only concern or issues are discussed and no names are mentioned. Step 4. Dealing with marginalization, encouraging inclusive thinking and practice. Collaboration between the adults and students in this phase is very significant. It spells out the response of the group and the concrete actions that will be taken to con- confront the issues and concerns about marginalization that we shared in the previous step. To share the learn to the learners for the collaboration between the adults and students.
Different learners in marginalized groups. A. child laborers or domestic workers. The International Labor Organization or ILO describes child labor as work that deprives children on their childhood, their potential, and their dignity, and that is harmful to physical and mental development. Child labor is caused poverty, the lack of education, and the lack of schools. It clearly stated that a large number of child laborers are unable to get an education because of poverty, situation of armed conflict, and calamities. The children who are able to study are emotionally and physically tired from work and are incapable of gaining much from studying in school more so doing self-study. So, ang dinian niya is kuan kanang as a member of kuan ILO is nag-describe siya as a kuan kanang child labor. So lahi ra gyud siya ang kanang focus ka sa studies nimo like kanang or working student ka tapos nagpadayon gyapon ka even though you are not rich but uh, bisan unsa sa kalisod sa imong kahimtang nagpadayon gihapon ka sa imong eskwela bisan pa man sa imong mga conflict nga mga schedules nimo like sa kanang sari-sari nga emotional nimo, physical, kakapoy nimo sa imong pag-study,
Study hard.
study hard kayo ka ug sa uban pa nimo nga kuan usahay mag self-study na lang ka or unsa nga dili ka maka-catch up sa mga topic sa uban kay tungod ka nang
Focus lang ka.
focus ka sa mga kuan bisag unsa nga situation ang naa sa imuha but gihunahuna nimo nga makahuman ka, gihunahuna nimo nga
Yung ginuhuna niyang
Ah.
kaugmaon.
do your best always lang tapos bisan unsa sa calamities nga kuan hitabo sa imuha.
Padayon lang gihapon. In the United Nations Declarations of the Rights of Indigenous People, 2007, indigenous people are acknowledged to have suffered from historic justice as a result of their colonization and deposition on their lands. So, ang United Nations Declaration daw is, ang mga tao, mohatag gyud sila kanang baruganan sa usag sa katao para sa ilang kaugmaon. So mag-suffered sila about anang mga kuan about ana sa mga or naay mga issues anang ibaliwala ra bitaw dili nimo idibdib tapos kanang para ma-focus jud ka sa mga kuan nimo like gaay na studying ayan na. Then territories and resources, thus preventing them from exercising, in particular, their right development in accordance with their own needs and interests. So kita naatay right nga ug naatay right ug naaputay on nga kanang need nato bitaw nga ato pong buhaton. So focusing on education, indigenous people generally lack access to education because they usually stay in places that are quite far from schools and also because of their marginalized status in the community.
So kaning focusing on education, indigenous people generally lack access to education mo ni siya ang kanabitong bisan unsa kalayo sa imong eskwelahan sa maatong kang ay kakagaina nga bisan unsa kalayo ang inyong eskwelahan sa inyong baryo nagpadayhon gyapon ka even to 2 hours ang imong pagbaktas gikan sa inyong balay padulong sa inyong school kay kani siya ang sa ato ang kuan sa ato ang kabukiran or sa ato ang kuan is hilom siya but pag abot sa ato ang school is so ma-enjoy nato even though we are tired sa 2 hours nga paglakaw-lakaw gikan sa balay padulong sa school, tapos pag makita na nimo ang school nga murag hapit na ka or nakatungtong na ka sa school ninyo, murag ang tanan kakapoy nimo murag siya og mawala siya kay tungod sa kasaba, kasiaw, tanan-tanan nga na makita nimo sa tanan-tanan nga makita nimo sa school tapos dili nimo makita sa inyong balay. So nag-enjoy ka sa imong life even though you are tired, and do your best as a students.
Tapos like ani sa maitabo bukid kanang peaceful kanang nga lugar. Yes.
See, abused children. The World Health Organization or WHO defines child maltreatment as the abuse and neglect that occurs to children under 18 years old. It includes all types of physical and or emotional entreatment, sexual abuse, negligence, and commercial to the other exploitation, which results in actual or potential harm to the child's health, survival, development, or dignity in the context of relationship of responsibility, trust, or power.
Okay. The refuge or displaced children. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refuge sa UNHCR defines refuge as someone who has been forced to flee his and her country because of persecution, war or violence. A refuge has a well-founded fear or persecution for reason or race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in particular social groups. Most likely they cannot return home or are afraid to do so.
The Declaration of the Human Rights and the Convention of Child's Rights emphasize that education is the right of every person, every child. This means that education policies are in place despite the laws. The number of children caught in conflict zones is still increasing, and many are being deliberately targeted. The way wars are being fought in this presenting demonstrates a total disregard for children and schools. And that's all. Thank you.